I'm very happy to welcome Laura. Laura, who is actually founder and CEO of AllWomen.
We are a platform to train, transform, and empower women in technology. And we do this in different ways. So we have our bootcamps in tech skills. We have our e-learning and on-demand courses platform. We are a community. We organize plenty of events in person, remotely. We also work with companies because in the end we are training women to join the tech force. So we work closely with tech companies in different formats as well. So as I said, AllWomen is a platform that has been evolving during these past 4 years now and adapting to the situation and to the needs and to the opportunities we see in order to empower women within the technology sector.
What was the initial trigger
Right, okay.
to get into that?
Do you want long story, short story?
Well,
Or
it depends.
mid story?
I mean, just do as you feel.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
for you.
I think I'm going to do the long because I think it makes sense in that context for people that may be thinking into start an entrepreneurial project, I would say. So everything started like probably 8 years ago, so more or less. I joined a place called Makers of Barcelona. Makers of Barcelona, it was one of the first co-working spaces in Spain, actually. And when I joined that space, at that moment, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, technology. You know, for me, companies were created by, white men with suits with a lot of money, right? But then I discovered that it was like people from all over the world and not wearing suits, not only white people and only with a laptop, sharing a space, creating companies and projects and making impact, right? And that for me was like very enlightful. And even though I didn't know anything about, this world and this concept and this way of, making projects and companies, that was very, impactful for me. And I decided that I wanted to join this group of people, right? So working there within Makers of Barcelona, I started to develop projects in the intersection of entrepreneurship and education and technology. And then, I learn new things, discover, new ways of, approaching all of these situations, and also discovering that there were like some gaps between what the professional sector was asking for, the skills people were, having. And at some point, we decided that by being surrounded by all these entrepreneurs around me, I decided that I have to do, something about it, right? That I could become myself an entrepreneur. I don't know if you remember, but at this moment, there was economical crisis, and that economical crisis was affecting jobs and jobs within young people, right? There was a lot of high unemployment among young people. And one of the reasons why it was because it was a matching, what companies were asking for and the skills these people had. So we decided to create an educational program that was having, these two ingredients. But then when I started looking from a gender perspective, I realized that putting, also the gender ingredient in this equation was still even a bigger gap, right? So we were facing a skills gap, but also a gender gap. So, observing all of this and trying to work, something out and being within an entrepreneurial environment, I decided to create not AllWomen, but a previous project before AllWomen, right? But that was the aim was to look for funds for women to learn technological tech skills, and that project was called Future Funded, and that was my first entrepreneurial project, and that project lasts for a year, and it failed, and I learned so many things during this first year of launching this first project that allowed me to then create AllWomen and be successful, at least last for more than 1 year, I would say.
Where did you look for the energy or for the idea to say, okay, I'm gonna do this next,
Yeah, so, that's a good question. So actually, I had a very clear mission, right? We wanted to have more women into the tech sector. That was like our very clear
And that was the same
motto.
since the beginning.
Claro, exacto, right? And then our first approach to that was future funded through a crowdfunding platform, right? Because we thought, okay, that's a very good way to go. Let's try this, right? And we tried that for a year, and then we realized because of the business model, because of the legal framework, because of many things, that project, it didn't work. But then the mission was still the same, right? And during this year, we learned like so many different things, and actually like working with our users that were like women entering the tech sector, we learned things, and was thanks to having conversations with these users that we realized that maybe the way we were approaching that problem wasn't the right one, and we could approach the problem in a different way, right? That was always the all women way now than the way we know now, right? But we learned that through going first through an approach, having users, talking to these users, and then through those conversations, I learned that the way we were doing that, it wasn't efficient, but we could do it in a different way, that it could be efficient, right? So there was through that, like, I don't think we could get, reach to all women without going through this first phase. And I mean, like, everything is part of this way that you need to go through. It's impossible that your first approach is the right one, but your mission has to be very clear. And once you have this very clear mission, then you always have the energy to, say, this is not the right way, but let's try it this way, or let's try it this way, or this other way. There are like 1,000 things that you need to try, right? But if you truly believe in your mission, then you have the energy to do it. Yeah. And you will find the resources to do it, and you will find the people to do it. But for me, and I think like everyone that is an entrepreneur, social impact entrepreneur, they have this like very clear, and this is our motto, right? And then you will find the ingredients to do the same, to deliver that mission. But I think that's the key. I mean, in my case, because to start something is hard. I mean, that's the reality, right? But if you have this like very clear mission, then that's your gas.
Right?
See, it's your gas, it's your everything.
How did you pick that mission, or how did that mission pick you? When did it happen?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. So as I was mentioning, I was working in that space, right? Makers of Barcelona, and we were working with like education, tech skills, and entrepreneurship, and at this moment we had like this economic crisis that I was mentioning and stuff like that, right? And we were thinking, how can we, approach that if we see all these gaps here, how we can, find on a solution that could, help us like bridge these gaps, right? And then that day, one day, that's a very simple story, but that was like the trigger, right? So that day, one day we went to a conference, and it was a tech conference in Barcelona, and it was, and I went with my partner, and we are there, like sitting there, like listening to all the, all the talks, and then we start looking at the program, and there was like 0 women speaking, like 0, and we were like, I don't want to say a bad word, right? But I was like, I want to say the bad word. I would say fuck, yeah. And it was like, we were like so frustrated, and because they say we know women that work in technology, and we're in Barcelona. How is that possible? That we go to a conference and there is like 0, and that like a sort of like simple thing that happened that day. It allowed us to realize, we need to focus on, on tackling like the gender issue within the technology sector, because it's really a problem. So it's the ingredient that we added to our equation when we were thinking, how we solve education, technology gap. We realized that we had to add the gender gap, the gender thing in that, because we went to that event and we realized that wasn't, the right way to do it.
Yeah. Can you tell us what was the MVP? So what was these things you learned that you did a bit differently, and like how did you get to that MVP, and what were the first results?
Yeah, so the MVP is I have it like very clear in my mind what was the MVP. So I had this conversation, right, with this user that we had, and she was telling me, like, because with our previous project, right, we were like looking for funding for women to learn tech skills, and they were going to, the boot camps that exist at that time, right? And then I was talking to her, and she's telling me, the bootcamp is going great. I'm learning so much, blah blah blah. But then she's telling me like, but I think like if the projects we were like developing in class were like that I could relate more, I could learn more, right? Because she was telling me we are like this because she was doing a software development bootcamp. And she was like, we are designing a battleship, a football match in order to put in practice JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. And she was telling me, I don't care about those topics, right? If I could care about the topics, then I think like my learning would be like much deeper. And that made me realize like, claro, like these boot camps, these academies, these schools are being designed by men for the things that they know, the things that they can relate. So it's what they bring to that educational place, because it's the things that you know. It's like, it's not made in purpose, you know, it's just like the things I know, the things I relate, I'm gonna put them there, right? But then they don't have like in consideration, you know, the diversity of the population. You just do it as your you know, your system. So the MVP, and then we thought, I mean, through that conversation, we thought, okay, what would happen if we develop like a learning space that is, you know, for and by women? Would that learning be different? More women would, you know, join the tech field. We didn't know, right? That was like assumptions that we had. So our MVP was we created 2-day workshop. Well, it was 2 afternoon workshop with female instructor. She wasn't an instructor per se. She was like an AI engineer, and she developed a small workshop to teach, you know, other women how to create a chatbot. And that was our MVP. 2 afternoons, learn how to design your chatbot with Susanna, which is an AI engineer. And we put that, you know, workshop there outside through our newsletter and through our like social media channels. And I think like 6-8 women, you know, sign up to the course in person, because at that time everything was like in person. And that was our MVP. And we had a very, you know, nice experience. They told us like, I never thought that I could, you know, design a chatbot, because I don't come from a tech field, but maybe I come from marketing, I come from, you know, other fields. And I think for me to gain those skills and feel that I can be independent in my work is very helpful. And I thought that would be like a very technical thing that I would always have to ask someone to do it. And all of a sudden I become like independent in that sense, and I can do my experiments and my tests. And I also learned how to program in a very basic way, so I felt empowered about it, because I thought, you know, that it couldn't be possible, and also it's a useful thing for me for my work. So that was our MVP. And after that, we said, okay, validated, you know, with 8 people. Why not? Validation enough,
but
check.
But you validated a very important assumptions is women are more engaged and more empowered if they relate to the content, right? That's what you said was the initial assumptions there.
Claro, and
basically a population is more engaged with the content.
If they can relate, yes. And also, if you created that female environment, that all like for the tech sector per se, because maybe they wouldn't thought like I can do this or I can learn that. And but then we had like also a female instructor, right? Like saying, hey, this is me, like you know, we can learn these things together, right? So, but when it was like 8 people, as I said. But for me, it was enough.
Yeah. So what came next?
So after that, we said, okay, now let's develop like a longer course, not an 8 hours course. And we developed like a 400 hours course in data science. And that was our first bootcamp, I would say. And it was like 5 people, female instructor, but we developed the whole curriculum, the whole thing, and we delivered that course to 5 women. And that was like our, you know, second validation, I would say, right? And we had, that cohort was like very mix of people. So we had Inés, I know everyone. So Inés, she was a PhD working in life science, so very much into science, but not like technical, no new techniques, modern techniques in the tech sector. Then we had Blanca, like coming from a, you know, marketing background. We have another girl as well, like coming from a PhD background, and another, it was like half and half, like 2 marketing people, 2 PhD people. And it was very interesting because of their like mix of backgrounds, the different projects, and how they were like supporting each other with the different skills that they already had. and stuff like that. And now they are all working in the tech sector. So that's.
Oh, really? So they all transitioned?
Yeah, that was a
Oh,
transition
nice.
for all of them, and that was very nice. And from there, then we started to add, other specialities. Like we were looking at the market. So what are, companies asking for? And then something that was like, that we realized that it was very, that it had to do a lot with our target. So we were thinking, if we do like a full-time program, you can learn in a very efficient way, like these new tech skills. So in 10 weeks, you will be ready, right? But then we realized that the reality, of women is like, there is not many women that have like 10 weeks full-time disposal to learn new things, right? Because if you look at, stats, like women, they have like much less time than men, for like the way the society is like organized. So, and we thought, what if we put this program in part-time? It will have in part-time format. Instead of 10 weeks, it will be 24 weeks. You can work at the same time. You can have your, manage your responsibilities, etc. Would that work better? And actually, yes. And then, like, all our programs became to be like part-time, even though our first thought, because when you look at like general boot camps, like they all started with full-time courses, right? And because it's very efficient, like in 10 weeks you are done, you can. But we realized because like the reality of our target, that solution wasn't working for them, because they don't have this time.
But so a question here. So did you launch the 10 weeks program before to realize it didn't work, or did you?
Yeah, then we continued doing it, but like we only have one program in full time, and the rest of our programs are all part time.
Okay, so you launched it and you realized, okay.
Claro, we thought like, why we don't have like more demand?
How did you realize that this was the reason?
Porque, yeah, exactly. Bueno, good question. So we were like, okay, why we don't have more demand? And now, something that we were doing is like we've always been working like in our like community, creating like nice content that is valuable, events, etc. Right? So we said, okay, we know that we have a nice community, and we can contact this community through our newsletter, through our Instagram. So we throw the question there. Would you be interested in to do a part-time program instead of full-time? And then they said, yes, please do it, because like I don't have this like time. I cannot like stop working and leave everything and learn. But I want to learn, but I cannot leave everything in my life.
So did you have this thing of asking questions to the community?
We do this like very often, yeah.
Okay, so basically you use the community as a way to co-create and
to learn what they need, because sometimes you think like, yeah, I thought like data science full-time, great. Why? No, it was data science part-time actually, but it was great, right? And that's a nice thing, like also because we have been always like creating, content that is valuable for these women. Then you can ask questions and they will give you feedback. You create that relationship. If you only, I don't know, your messages are always like buy me, then you're not creating any, like relationship with them. Instead, if you create like valuable content, then you can have this like conversation and say, okay, do you prefer this or do you prefer that? And then they will answer to you.
Are there products or services that you created based on a request or recommendation from a community member?
Actually, yes, our program of like software development, we created, it was the last one that we added. And we added because they were asking for it. So at some point we thought like there is like so many people like offering this. Maybe start with different, like when we started with data science, it was not so many schools were offering data science. So for us it was like, okay, let's try to be different. And at some point people were like, okay, you have created this like super nice space only for women. We want to learn how to code as well, software development. Please do it, right? And then we finally did it because people were asking for us to develop this program as well. But it was the last one we did actually.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, it makes me feel that you you invested like genuine energy into building that conversation with women, and that it grew progressively.
Yeah.
How many people are in that community now?
Claro, there is like different circles that you can look at, right? Yeah. So, for instance, like our graduates is like around 500 students, women that have gone through our courses. And then people that have come to our events, maybe we can talk about like 5,000 people have come to our events, like easily. And then if we look at our, newsletter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., then we can talk about like 30,000 people worldwide. But since day one, and that was since like Future Funded, even though it was called different, we had like a very clear objective of, okay, we're gonna build community, it has to be global, and it has to be through valuable content. And also because we have like, this like bold mission, it's easy to connect with others, and these others, these other women, they also provide content for us, right? So they are a speaker for this talk, or maybe they write, a blog about, salary negotiation skills. Like, it's very easy it's very contagious, because you have like a bold mission where you're trying to do is like positive impact. So it's very easy to attract, others to add into your mission. And that's a very, like efficient way, right, of like creating value. And that's something that you cannot pay for, right? Because that's a belief, that the same belief that I was saying, like I feel it that I have to do this. These women that collaborate with us in our community, they also feel it, and then they give you 150%, and you cannot pay for this. It's like to have this like contagious mission. People believe on that, and then they add because they know that they are also bringing some impact by this this event they participated, and this talk they gave, they made an impact, and that's very valuable for them, and that's the way you pay back to them.
It's very interesting. I'd like to dive, if you're okay, into the community aspect, because I think that especially in the last decade, we moved more and more towards community-driven activities, not to say businesses, but in the sense that basically by leveraging a real relationship with people that share the same values or the same goals, you're able to actually build something that is more meaningful and has more impact. But it is a specific strategy, right, or a specific effort to execute it. How did you go about it? Like, did you have specific type of expertise or a specific way to organize yourself to give space for a community to grow?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot. I mean, yesterday we were talking about that with our team. There is like so many other things that we see that we have to do, and then you don't have. I mean, but little by little, you do it. I mean, I think I learned a lot about this in my previous professional experience at Mob, because it's also like, collaborative community based, and I learned a lot about like, building those relationships. So it takes an effort, but it's a very nice effort when you see the results, I would say. And again, I think if it's like a true mission that you are trying to foster, and that you truly believe on that, the people you are attracting, they see it, and they also help to attract other people. So for instance, I think on the instructors that work for in our courses, we haven't done any hiring elsewhere. It's only like recommendation of recommendation of recommendation of recommendation. We've never been like looking into LinkedIn like, okay, we look for a product manager instructor. Never. It has been, okay, I organize an event. I know someone that works in product management. I start talking to this person, and then I said like, I have this program. You would like to maybe teach? I would love to. And then she proposed me, a colleague. I have this colleague that, and she would love to also teach, and that's how it goes, right?
What are the key ingredients
for
good community building? Would you be able to?
It's hard. I think it comes natural. Well, no, I don't know. I think I didn't have a strategy.
No?
I think I would just.
Be natural.
I was just doing it. I think the ingredients. Bueno, that's important. Like, you have to truly believe on that mission. Then things will happen like sort of like in a natural way. That's a hard question. I don't know how.
You can take a bit of water.
I don't know how I've done it.
You just do it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Be natural. Go with the flow.
No, also like, I don't know, listen to people, right? Like, if for instance, right? I remember, I don't know how that happened, but we organized, because I've been always like open to, go to places like this. I've been to, like you were saying, like in Barcelona, there are like meetups for everything. I've been in all meetups, and I'm always like open to, meet people, and this person connects you to this other person, and you have this conversation with that person, and you never thought about this, but she made you think about this, right? So for instance, I don't remember exactly how, but I met this person that she told me I can do an event about salary negotiation, and I was, that's great, because women, we always struggle with that, blah blah blah, and we did that event, and it was like massively successful. And then I realized, okay, that's a topic that women care about it, so let's do more events in that direction about women at work, skills to develop your professional career and stuff like that. So that would be maybe a takeover, like be open to connect with others, and to test things quickly, and if you see these things work, then continue doing more of that, right? That's an example. I think we have, and that was for community building, and also for business development, like be always open to try new things in a fast way, and try like so many different things, like, and if this thing doesn't work, it doesn't matter, try a new one, and then if it doesn't work, try this other one. But you always take a learning from that one, and I'm sure, like, because you fail in this, you learn something that it will drive you to that one that probably maybe would be successful, right? So I think I also build community in that way. I didn't have like that's my strategy. No, I was like testing things. This works, this doesn't work. Okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore, and things like that, right?
I mean, what you're describing that you did intuitively is sometimes what people put on a map and say that's our strategy. So it's good.
And then they charge for that. Yeah, maybe. Okay, after this event, that's an idea, yes? Then now I just learned.
Ready to go.
How do you get yourself different from all the courses that we can find online for free or cheaper?
That was basically bootstrap, right? So we had that idea. We want to have this like data science course. So I asked someone within that co-working space that I was working that knew about this field to help me to create sort of like a curriculum, a syllabus, right? Something, a structure for that course. And then we start promoting that course within our, newsletter, social media and stuff like that, right? And at some point I had some people that were like interested in the course. So then I looked for the professor, for someone to help me to develop. That it wasn't even a professor, it was someone working in the field, not to help me like develop the curriculum per se. And how I met this person, it was in an event like that, actually, and I was explaining about this approach of women, and she emailed me, she contacted me on LinkedIn, like, I really like what you're trying to build, if at some point, we can collaborate, I know to do this, that, and that, and that. And she could do, she knew how to develop, a syllabus for a curriculum for data, because she was a data scientist, right? So again, like being exposed and going to places, like you meet people that could, fit you in the right place, and because you have like an interesting and involved mission, people come to you, right? So that's how I created my first course, I would say.
So you shared the revenues with this teacher, or how did you pay the teacher, the professor?
Because I had like then students to pay for the course, and then with that I was able to pay the instructor, the development of the curriculum, and yeah, that's more or less how it worked.
There was a second question, which I recall is about
differentiation.
How is your differentiation if basically your price is premium?
Yeah, our differentiation is basically there is like we have this methodology. I would say that is maybe close to other bootcamps. So in terms of like maybe content or like the methodology, right? To be like in 24 weeks or 10 weeks, like pretty fast way. I would say it's very practical, like learning with a again, like instructors, but other professionals from, from the industry. And we have this like career development plan where we help, our students to find a job. We are very happy and proud to say that 90% of our, students, they get a job after 3-6 months. So of course, then is when they start to be paid back, they do this first investment, I would say, but then like accessing the tech sector will pay back. And we have, different payment plans and stuff like that. We know this is a premium service. Of course, like people working there, our instructors are premium professionals as well. So it has like a pretty high base cost to deliver these programs. Also, they are very customized. So we don't have like 50 people, right? So it's like around 15 maximum, 20 maximum. So it's very customized group of people. So then the cost has to be premium. But that being said, for us, this has been always like a thing, like how we make, this education more accessible, how we make this education more accessible. That has been like a thing for us, like since the very beginning, right? And so right now, like this year, like 2 months ago, actually, we launched our new like learning platform where we are throwing like courses that are at a very, very, very like lower price to be more accessible. But then the format is different, okay? So this is like, we have like, it's like a course that is pre-made, I would say, right? So you have videos, podcasts. We try to be like, multi-format approach. So, it's fun and it's dynamic and it's interactive. And it also has like this human component where you interact like once a month with, with an expert. And you have your mentors that comment on your assignments like in a daily basis. And you have like a, support Slack channel and stuff like that. But then because it's not live, then you can, lower a lot of the cost and the price for these people. And also, it's also as well like flexible, because maybe, even though maybe you have the money, you don't have the time to go like Monday to Wednesday from this time to this time. So accessibility and flexibility was always like a thing. And we just now started to develop this new branch of courses that are trying to solve that, because we realize about this.
How many women enter the tech sector, and how many women like stay there, or maybe they just entered and decided that it's...
Yeah. So because we started 3 years ago, all of them, they still are there in the industry, right? But I know there is like a big number there of women like dropping and leaving the tech sector after a while. But I think it's after a while. We don't have this after a while yet, right? Because we have like women that graduated like 3 months ago. So they just started, so they don't, just leave. So we don't have this data on like people like leaving the tech sector yet, because we are like pretty young, like training these people. But the data we have is the people entering, like these women entering in, is like this like 90% is depending on the course, it varies a little bit, right? But this 90% of women that came from our courses that join the tech sector after the course within a time frame of 3 to 6 months, depending as well of the course and different variables. But there is a pretty high success rate, I would say, in that sense.
What's your company current biggest struggle, challenge? And the same question for you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so very two good questions, and I have very two straight answers. So company-wise, I think sustainability. We have done this like bootstrapping, so that means like reinvesting, like everything, every earn we do, and this doesn't match very much with the tendency of burning money as a crazy and doing financing rounds of millions to burn this money. But things are changing now because all of these like crises, and maybe they have realized that this model is not very sustainable and it doesn't make so much sense, and there is something in between. So for us, that's a challenge, to be sustainable and be able to grow because you want to grow every year, because you want to do new things and you want to improve things for your team, and you want to do this new product and this new project, and you want to get to this many new people. So growth and then sustainability, but you also want to keep quality and you want to be accessible, right? So to find this, match the whole thing, like, business, product, users, and finances and growth, like everything at the same time. It's complicated. And then as an entrepreneur, and maybe that's related as well as a company, right? To learn to be a manager, right? Because you start as a solo entrepreneur and it's you managing yourself. And then at the beginning, it's hard to manage yourself because you don't know. But at some point, you sort of learn to manage yourself. But then all of a sudden, you have a team of people. And that is very complicated to manage other people, right? And because you have spent so many time like learning about how to manage yourself, that then you forget that you have to manage people and they rely on you to be managed, right? So that's my biggest struggle now, to learn how to be a good manager. We're a tiny team, right? We are 10 people, but still, like, me, I have to manage these 10 people, and then we have all our collaborators, right? And that's something that nobody teach me before. I didn't went to management school or whatever, right? And the other day I was listening to this podcast because I'm very much into that now, into learn how to do this, in a good way. And they were saying like, a lot of, entrepreneurs or managers or whatever, they put this like management time or management skills as a thing that you do, like the last thing you do, right? But no, but actually it's your main thing as a manager is to manage, people. It's not a side thing, right? So that's my biggest struggle now as an entrepreneur, because I'm an entrepreneur and a manager, right? So I'm learning that.
Thanks for the presentation. It's really, really cool. Let me give you another dilemma we suffer every day. So my name is Colin McKell. We co-founded World Reader here about 12 years ago. So we're in many, many countries around the world. So there's a kind of success there, but there's a real big but. There's a dilemma. Our funders, or in your case investors, they say to us, if there's no evidence, it didn't happen. There's no evidence, right? We use technology, they want data. However, we're trying to get to some of the poorest people in the world, say in sub-Saharan Africa, where if you try to measure data on a mobile telephone, you're in fact robbing data from them. They get no benefit from it. You get the benefit. And so there's an eternal push from funders and investors to say, give us more measurements, more technology, more sophistication. But it really does dilute your impact at the same time. Because you can't get to people. People will just shut off if you're robbing their data. And I don't know if you have that same dilemma in what you're doing between your investors and your funders, what they want to reinvest, and your day-to-day impact.
So that's the beauty of... Well,
if I may just repeat for everyone to
Please.
understand. I'll try to summarize. Basically, is how do you deal with the measurement and the pooling of data towards the different stakeholders, and do you have any dilemma now related to that?
So as for now, I don't have a dilemma on that because I don't have investors. So I do whatever I want every time.
That's the beauty of Bootstrap, right?
Claro, it has the beauty, and also it has, other things that are not that beauty, right? That maybe you want to do this and you don't have...
Let's enjoy the benefits.
Claro, exacto. But there is also this part, right? When I talk to other entrepreneurs, claro, we always talk about this. Like, I have all this freedom where I can do whatever I want and I don't have to please anyone. But then, you maybe grow slower, or maybe not, or maybe slower compared to what, right? So maybe you need to decide, like, how much I want to grow, what kind of company I want to be. Do I want to compare myself with growing like 10 per year, or for me, like going per 2, it makes sense. Well, you need to decide those things. Also, you can change your mind. You can decide one thing at the beginning, and then after 1 year, 2 years, you can change your mind. You can change your mind and go for a different model, right? So, but I think that you have to be clear with yourself. Okay, what do I want to do, and how I'm going to do it, and be in peace with that, knowing that you can change your mind like 1 year after. But I don't have this dilemma yet.
And if you ever have trouble with companies, because if they're just doing a boot camp, I know that there's a lot of demand for technical people, and sometimes they don't care that you didn't study a degree in that, but do you ever have trouble that they're not prepared enough?
Yeah. So for the first question, it all starts actually at the very beginning. It's not like you do all this technical course and now we're going to do this career path, right? It's something that goes together. So at the very beginning, we understand from where that student comes from, which skills she already has, because they all have professional experience in something, and a lot of the skills are transferable. So we map these out. Then we understand where the student wants to go. So maybe she has a very sector that she really wants to go, or maybe she doesn't care that much about the sector, but yes, about the position. We understand this, no, where the student is. And then we have like a midpoint that we call it, right? And we understand during this midpoint, if she, we assess sort of some of like the hard skills and soft skills. And at this point, in this midpoint, we understand if she has a start, if she thinks that she is accomplishing what she has like assigned at the very beginning. And then we already start, giving her like tips, things that she can start doing it, right? So maybe if she wants to go to this specific sector, maybe we advise her start going to meetups in that specific sector, start connecting with people on LinkedIn that works in that sector, and stuff, things that sometimes seems pretty obvious, but there is people that they haven't been exposed to those things, doing like professional networking. So in that sense, we do this like one by one, right? Assessing them for their specific objectives. Then during the course per se, there's like specific sessions that are very linked to soft skills developing, your personal elevator pitch and stuff like that. And we have like professors that are, specialists on that. And for each specialty, so in data we have one professor, for UX we have another one, for products, because they come from these specific areas. And then, of course, they will develop like a project during the course, and that would be, for them to show as their portfolio as, like new data scientists or UXers or whatever. And then they will present their project. They will have like specific, like individualized, feedback on that project, because that project then, as I said, is your cover letter, to go into interview. So it's very important that they get this personalized feedback. And then they will do like a session on as well how to do like job search on LinkedIn, and etc. It's a lot of like very like job positioning and stuff like that. Then they will graduate. We'll do like hiring first. Again, we will have like these cards for each student that we will pass onto the companies. It's very customized thing. And then after this hiring, they will have like interviews. And then there is things that just they become part of our like graduates, I would say. And then there is like projects that pop up, right? So for instance, we did like a challenge with Toyota Connect, and they were looking for UX graduates. So we pass on to this opportunity to our UX graduates, or we will do like a challenge with another company for data and things like that will help them to develop more projects for their portfolio and stuff like that. So there are things that are very individualized, and we understand each case, and we assess this person in an individual basis. And there are things that are very like into the field related. There are things that are more like massive, like the hiring fair, like we have like different levels of activities happening since the beginning and after they are graduated, I would say.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.